Hello and welcome to the Alchemist Inkwell.
This is your spiritual podcast for grounded people.
It's been a weird morning.
It has. I also just realized that like my ring light basically does nothing. So I just
Oh,
turned
I
like
wouldn't know you had
there's,
one.
there's no brightness. It's fine. It's cool.
I
I like
just bought a new ring light actually, and it's like a Lume Cube one, so
it.
that it's
Ooh.
designed for film makers
Yeah, yeah.
specifically. It's a circle, but Weston has Lume Cube for like when he shoots video and stuff, and it's like huge lights that like flip onto your camera basically, and they have
Yeah.
other ones too. I was like, well, I'll get their ring light. So far, 10 out of 10. Super awesome. Kind of more advanced for me than I even would know what to do with all the stuff that it does, but it's really nice. And if I were to turn it on right now, you'd be like, wow, you're in the sunlight. It's not on.
I love that. I
Uh-huh.
I well, I will take your review into consideration and
Yeah.
check out some discounts that are available now because many discounts will not be available in the future. So,
Mhm. I know. I I was already starting to do this pre the downfall of the empire. Now I'm like, how do I put that nicely? I don't. Um,
two thumbs up.
downfall of the empire. I was already starting to like replace things that because I'm a mom of three. All of my
Mhm.
budget goes to that all the time. Like, the stuff for the house comes before my stuff or whatever. But I've started to like replace stuff that I was just like tolerating forever. And I'm like, I need to start integrating that stuff out. One of it was like my old ring light, which was like broken and tiny and like so not worth it. I was like, this is dumb. It's for business. Integrate that out. So there's been like a couple things I was already doing that. And then the downfall of the empire began. And so then I was like, oh, now I need to do this in quicker succession. So
Yeah.
I've been working on it. Not
Uh,
saying you have to. That is my own trauma response. If you're listening to that and you're like, oh God, do you do that? I'm not saying you have to do that. I think it might be smart to look at things that you should invest in order to prepare for things like tariffs.
yeah.
But that's not what I'm saying. That is my own panic response. So just like check myself on that one. That's not something that I would say everyone needs to do.
Yeah. Sorry about that. So I panic bought Christmas decorations over the weekend and they have just arrived and the dogs aren't happy. Because I was like, okay, they're only going to get more expensive. And I found them for like 150 bucks. I decorated the whole house. So,
Nice.
yeah, I mean, Taurus sun does pop through every once in a while. And the moon's in Libra and like I'm working it. So
Yeah.
I said that to Dan and now the Amazon guy is wonderful. To the Amazon person, wonderful human being. You are appreciated. I'm sorry about my dogs. But I had to mute my microphone to get them to calm down. Um, but also I'm
Yeah.
excited because we decorate on Thursday. So yay. And we have I'm gonna help us guide this back. Hello, I'm KristaLyn. This is Emily. We do this
Oh
a lot.
yeah.
It is a spiritual podcast for grounded people, but it is also when we are recording hours before Mercury turns retrograde in
Mhm.
Sagittarius. So bear with us on that. It's not an excuse, it's just a reason. And
Yeah. By the time you hear this, sorrows, prayers, Mercury's been retrograde for a couple days.
I love sorrows and prayers.
Use it for everything.
It's so
Kids
good.
also come home and be like, I had the worst day. This teacher was so mean to me. I'll be like,
Oh.
sorrows, prayers.
Yep, Dan and I do that too. It's awesome. It's so good. But if you're thinking about Mercury retrograde, I think we talked about it a little bit last week.
We did.
One of the things that is very attuned with our conversation thus far is Mercury in Sagittarius gets distracted by the shiny things.
What?
Mercury
No way.
retrograde in Sagittarius. My only thing is make sure that if you get the impulse to purchase the shiny thing, really check in with yourself and your budget and your resources and the space that you have to fill in your home and just make sure that that shiny thing does have a place to be loved. That's all.
Yeah. I would also just say too, it might not be the greatest time to get a spontaneous haircut, hair dye, or tattoo.
Yeah, no, not one that's
Just
gonna stick. Temporaries are great.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Just sleep on it type of time. It's a
yeah.
sleep on it type of time
Yeah,
for sure.
or get a temporary one that washes off, or
Yeah.
like a color that washes out, or something like that. Do the things on the computer that can show you a different haircut.
Mhm.
Experimenting and trying a bunch of things is perfect. One of the things that came through for me when I was thinking about affirmations for the Mercury retrograde is experience is success enough. Experience all the things, but don't give yourself the caveat that you have to complete them or that you have to follow through with them, because that's not the point. It's deciding what sticks for you that is the point. And so the idea of picking something up with the permission to put it back down again is totally okay. And I like that for me. Like my earth energy is like, you cannot finish something. That sounds like relaxation or something. I don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Starting something fun sounds fun.
Hmm. Yeah. I
Making
would do
huge
that.
altering decisions on a whim, not a good time for that.
Mhm.
But you're really gonna want to. So that's
Yeah.
why we're prefacing it. If like you're really going to want to, and multiple things come into that. First of all, it is the Mercury retrograde component, but also right now the world is shifting, the world is
Mhm.
changing, and we're having a really hard time as a collective reconciling that, especially if you're living in the United States. But also, if you're a spiritually inclined person, there's a lot of issues with reconciling that too, because
Mhm.
there's probably some drive sitting in you being like, I want to change things. Things need to reflect the new feeling, or things need to change too. And looking around, especially if you're struggling with, the downfall of the empire. If you're looking around at the world and being like, oh my God, everyone's just going about their thing, the same old, I can't do that.
Mhm.
I'm struggling with that, especially going into the holidays. That's valid. Like, that's
Mhm.
so freaking valid right now. And our society is so good at making us comfortable and pushing us into forgetting and just ignoring it so that we don't have to deal with it. And that's not how we handle things as spiritual peeps. So you're probably having a time with that
Yeah.
in general. And leaning into that, especially during the holiday season when you might not feel as connected in general to what you would be doing holiday wise. I actually struggled with this last year. Last year's holidays were like really bad. Krista was there, not physically, but Krista knows. Really bad time last December. Like a really,
Yeah.
really bad time. It was not a good time for me. And so really putting an emphasis on doing stuff instead of making huge changes out of freaking out is going to be really, really important and helpful throughout this
Mhm.
month.
Yeah. And give yourself small wins, like
Hmm.
little things to look forward to, whether it's like, I'm going to play this level in my video game or whatever is happening. Small wins are going to be everything. Also, one of the things that came through as we were talking, take advantage of free trials.
So much so. I also have been doing that actually. I signed up
Mhm.
for three different free trials.
Yeah.
One's a tarot refresher, which I just wanted
Nice.
a refresher on
Yep.
all the card
Tarot.
meanings,
Yeah.
just in tarot in general. I don't need a refresher on how to pull it, but I wanted to like immerse. I'm hoping it goes deeper than just like the cups mean water. You know what I mean? Like, I'm hoping that it goes deeper than that space, but I just wanted to. I was like, whatever, it's a free trial. Like, I'll try that out. Another one's like Duolingo, but for history. So I'm like, can I go deeper?
I've
I'm
seen
already
that
probably
one.
going to cancel that one. It doesn't go as deep as I want it. This is not for history nerds. It's for
Mhm.
history beginners, which
Mhm.
is fine. And then there's another one that I was doing that's like personal finance stuff and like things like that. So I'm like, yeah, free trials all the way is a perfect
Mhm.
time. It's also a really nice time if you're feeling very um frustrated or limited or like time's moving too fast. It's a really, really good time to invest in learning something.
Mhm.
Really, really solid energy space for that. Whatever that is. If it's a
Yeah.
pottery class, amazing. If that's like you decide to learn a new meditation technique or astrocartography or like whatever feels speaks to you, it is a really good time to invest in learning new stuff. Like truly the energy is really ripe for that.
Mhm. And to anybody listening, we mean astro mapping. Astrocartography is copyrighted. Um,
Oh, I'm sorry. Astro mapping. I
mhm.
had no idea it's
Yeah,
copyrighted.
it's
We talk about theta
confusing.
healing all the time though, so like that's
Yeah, I know. These people have been known to actually follow through, so I just putting it out there. Yeah,
I spelled cartography with two O's. Um,
yeah, with stars in it.
hmm.
It happens. It does. Um, yeah. So
Oh,
with that, not only
this
is
bad place. I'm sorry. What?
yeah, yeah, no, it's cartography. Um,
Yeah, I put a dash.
mhm. So also, though, like I'm looking at the chart for when Mercury goes retrograde for the
Sorry,
capital.
I don't mean to disrespect your thought. It's 11:25 on 11:25. Again, last time we were
That's
recording.
happened to you before.
Sorry, I just needed to point that out. I was like, wasn't that last time we were recording too? That also
Wasn't
happens like
it? I think it was at
11:18,
the end of the last
11:18.
episode, guys, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I'll listen in the comments. I just needed to point that out so someone else witnessed it, and now it's a
Yeah,
whole bunch of
we're gonna
people.
have to. Okay, so we're gonna both go on GhostTube.
Uh-huh,
And we'll ask independently which one of us is that for and what did we
uh-huh,
miss?
right? If you guys haven't seen, we were just talking about this before we got this episode's all fucking over the place. Who cares?
It's okay, it's a bookend episode and we will get there.
Yeah. If you guys haven't seen on TikTok, there's like the whole new trend of something called GhostTube, and I think it runs pretty Phasmabox style as far
Mhm.
as communicating with ghosts. I don't know exactly how it runs. Personally, I don't really care because I think anything can be a tool to communicate with things. So whether
Mhm.
that's your algorithm or something like GhostTube, I'm not a paranormal investigator, so I'm not going to get into the validity of one system of communication over another because I think they can all be used. However, people are really picking this up on TikTok and it's becoming kind of like a trend to like talk to the ghosts. And Krista and I were both like, well, can it do this? Can it do that? I don't know. We should try this. Maybe it can do this. So probably going to investigate that more thoroughly and be like, guess which one did this?
So I found GhostTube, but it's also like a VR thing, which is cool. I don't think it's the same thing.
No, it's like a Vox thing.
Yeah,
It's
no,
like
so
Ghost Tube
there's different
Vox.
free apps. And I think you put it
Yeah.
on your phone and then you hook it up to like a VR thing, which you could also
I do
do.
not want a VR talk to ghosts.
I
That's
do not want to
awful.
VR talk to ghosts. Now, one of my, I was a paranormal investigator.
Hmm.
I've done that. And
Hmm.
I was just like, listen, you're going to show me in my head where you are because if you try to jump scare me, I'm going to punch somebody and I don't want to do that. I am Mars ruled. I am fight or fight. And I just need to make sure that I don't act. It's just what happens. So like these are our ground rules. Um,
I've
yeah.
never seen you physically do that, but I've seen you verbally
I've
do that for people.
I, I've learned to put it into words first. I try to put
Hmm.
my Mercury in front of my Mars and just be like, "Are you okay?" And that's my first like I want to let you know this is wrong, but I'm going to ask you nicely. Are you okay? It's the most aggressive, "Can I help you?" ever. Um, which is what happened in someone picked on one of our clients' story ideas.
Uh-huh.
So,
And Krista went fight
ask
or
them if
fight
they were
on them.
okay. What?
No
So,
physical contact was exchanged, but
nope.
words were, and it was great.
Yeah. Yeah. That is that is a meditation that I have done for quite a while, and it is something I have mostly some good control over. So, yay.
Yeah.
Mars in Pisces, as you can tell.
Yeah.
Um,
Speaking of Mars, my
thank
least
you.
favorite planet. Um,
Oh, that's
I
okay. I
know.
hate Venus too.
I,
We're
I
so
won't
good
get
at this.
personally offended on it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I love Venus the planet, but me and Aphrodite got beef. So like,
Right. And fortunately there is a separation. Like I'm not excited about Aries the god of war or Mars the god of war, but Mars the planet in my chart, we're good. We have a good time.
so
They say
nice for
they like
you.
literally punch their hand. You know what I mean?
Me and Mars, we don't like each other.
No, no. My Mars is really is anchored by Jupiter and the moon. So there's a lot of like a lot of emotional support for Mars.
Yeah.
We'll put it that way. Yeah. Venus, not so much. Poor Venus. I feel bad for Venus in my chart. Um,
Mhm.
if I were to be honest, yours is much better. Very cool.
I feel bad for Venus in general right now, though, because she's being badgered.
Oh my God, yeah. She cannot get a break. She just can't. Um,
Hmm.
So yeah, so Mars is also stationing. Mars is actually at 5 degrees of Leo right now, will station at 6 degrees of Leo on December 6th, and will retrograde for quite a bit longer than Mercury does. We will talk more about that probably in next week's episode. But I do want to let you guys know that yes, Mercury is going retrograde. Mercury is going to deal with the shiny things and travel issues and confusion and people being a little bit too excited and forgetting to be considerate and that kind of stuff, maybe. But if you're seeing people get antagonistic, get irritated, get one of the words that came through in traditional astrology is destructive. So if you see people like breaking stuff out of frustration and whatever, or things, get aggressively broken, that's not Mercury. And sometimes it doesn't mean like, yes, life is still happening. Both things are happening at the same time. Do they need to attribute a planet? Not always, but also if you're in this realm of the world, in your spirituality, sometimes it can help to be like, this is Mars, this is Mercury. I see the separation here. And so with Mars, I'm going to treat this differently. And it just helps you to categorize how you choose to react and respond to different things. For Mars, I would say if you feel that impulsiveness to react, take a deep breath, count to 10. For Mercury, if you feel the impulsiveness to buy something, do something, get really excited, make sure that you check in with yourself and have everything to support following through with that excitement, and then be happy. But they are two different flavors.
I will say too with Mercury retrograde, because Mercury is totally doing that, but then it's also being like, oh, but you can't because the text broke, or like, oh,
Mhm.
you're going to do that because that's not going to work. So there's a little bit of that kind of Mars coming in and being like, oh, aren't you frustrated about this now? Isn't this going to bother you?
Yeah.
Because like there's a little bit of that frustration there. So just know too, like that's an urge to pause, not
Mhm.
necessarily a roadblock, if that makes sense. So
I
if the
love that.
text's not working, it's an urge to pause.
Mhm.
Um, the other thing I will say though, when this Mercury retrograde feels so superficial in the way that it's affecting technology. It is the fluffy tech. It's your internet
Mhm.
connection. It's your phone. It's
Mhm.
the
The
like
apps.
very cerebral, very fluffy type of technology. That's what it's getting. It's not your biotech as much. It's not your pipes under your house. It's not the rooted earthy stuff. It's the fluffy, flighty, airy stuff for
Yep.
sure, which also includes your thoughts. If you keep losing your words, yes, you do. Yes, you
Mhm.
do. If you keep what? That doesn't happen to me at all.
No, not last episode.
As everyone laughs at me about last week's episode, it's fine.
We got there. It was
I
great.
did 5 years later, but I made it. Or, if you get confused or overwhelmed or forget things, like it's very up here in your head type of
Mhm.
stuff with this Mercury retrograde too. So
Yeah.
that's where that comes in. And then Mars is just going to make you emotionally react to it. Aren't we
Mhm.
stoked?
A little bit
That's up.
snippy. Little bit
Hmm.
snippy with the Mars stuff. Um, And you know what? It's okay. There's a place for anger too, right?
Yeah.
If you feel anger and you can't shake it and it's not just a passing thing, find out how to take that energy and channel it into something. I
Mhm.
prefer like rock climbing, kickboxing, or going to volunteer your time at some kind of place where you can put it to use in an active way. All of those things count. Like go rage through your closet, get rid of all the stuff you hate in your closet, put it in a trash bag and shove it in there and punch it and then close the bag and take it and donate it.
Yeah.
Voila.
I go the overproductive route. My anger results in drastic amounts of overproductivity, which is, I've learned over the years, isn't unhealthy for me. That's like a good response for me. But all of a sudden, it'll be like, I've crocheted 2.5 queen size blankets in the last 2 weeks.
Yep. I tend to write a lot.
Productive.
Yeah. When I was a kid, my go-to thing when I was angry was I would go practice my piano and I would pound the keys, but I was practicing.
Hmm.
And I'm really excited because I may be getting a new keyboard where I'll be able to singing and playing music and all of those things help me integrate and process feelings, not just emotions, but feelings, right? So
Yes.
much better than raging or anything else. And so again, it's Mars and Pisces over here, folks. So the
Hmm.
music, the harmonics, the resonance, the vibration of it all, that's what
Yeah.
I need. And so
I do say I will sing if I'm angry, like
yeah.
guaranteed. Weston learned that very early on in the relationship. He'd be like, "Oh, you're mad at
Yep. Yeah, I used to stomp off as a kid and go play the piano. Yep.
me." Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing I do want to say, if you're also struggling to make your world feel different, and there's this deep current of like, I need it to feel different that's happening right now, which
Mhm.
is so valid because so many
Mhm.
things are scary, so many things are up in the air, so many things are changing. So are you. You're changing and you're feeling those things that needing your world to reflect that. It's part of the reason we decided to do the Christmas program. I'm not going to call it the Traditions of Light Winter Festival. Um,
Woo! First time.
Woohoo! I did write it like 35 times over the week, so I got it down now, I think. But that's one of the reasons we decided to do that is we wanted to give you guys space to explore traditions that you're not necessarily going to be exposed to in other ways. I mean, the amount of research, first of all, our own practices. I've practiced, I would say 75% of the traditions that we're honoring throughout this month with you, in general, over time. Um, and some I haven't, but a good chunk I have. And
Yeah, and
Krista
I
feels, I know the same, the same,
yeah.
same. And so it's stuff we've spent not just like this month, but years researching and putting energy and effort into and designing ritual for and connection for, as well as stuff that we've also really dug up and researched that are way more ancient or way less talked about,
Mhm.
that you get to experience too. One of them that we were just talking about today is a Roman festival called the Festival of Bonadea. It's a secret festival of women that happened in December. They would gather at nighttime in the house, in like the house of the person who's hosting it. No men, including no male animals, were allowed to come in. And so, as such, we don't have a record of everything that happened because
Mhm.
the men
Or of
controlled
anything.
books or of
Mhm.
anything that happened. We just know that they was there and it's to honor Bonadea, the goddess of fertility and such. And so like we've brought that into the space and like ways to honor that during this time. And like it's just going to be a really cool picture of how spiritually integrated your life can be. So if you're feeling drawn to that and you want that to change and still honor the traditions you have, but just like really create a space where spirituality is part of your life,
Mhm.
that's why we wanted to make it, because we felt this desire also to be like everything needs to change and feel different, and this is a step for that. So if you want to join that, you still can. This week it starts on the 1st. That's our Traditions of Light Winter Festival, and you can go to ninthhouseexperiences.com.
Mhm.
Yes, that's what it is,
Uh, I
ninthhousepub.com
think it's
still.
ninethhousepub.com. It's going to be experiences because we're
Yeah.
changing the
Ninth
hours.
House Pub. It's just fine. We got the name sort of.
Yeah.
Ninthhousepub.com. And we'll also include the link below this episode. But we would love to have you there. It's going to be a month long of you get a guide every week to the traditions that week. So you can design rituals for, based off of that for that week for yourself. From all over the world. All of them are open. We're only talking about open spiritual practices, and they can be, they're from all different pantheons,
Yep.
sects, all sorts of ancient cultures, modern cultures, all over the place. And then every Friday, you get a call with us as well throughout the
Mhm.
month of December, where we can answer your questions or help you with designing a specific piece, or if you have any thoughts on certain things, whatever, we're there for you. Um, and plus, you get a community where you can share pictures of your stuff and like, I made this wreath of orange slices. We put a picture here and get real hyped about it in a spiritual way, and people can test the vibe stuff with you. And it's going to be really cool.
Yep.
So if that is something that you're interested, amazing. If not, do stuff like that on your own. I do recommend it. It'll be, it's a lot of research. And if you have that time, amazing. If you don't, just, try to alter some of the spaces that you do have around you to reflect who you are now.
Yeah, yeah. And honestly, one of the things that I know has been coming through for both of us in recent times,
Hmm.
is that this year, in addition to like having trial runs with other things, we're also deciding what we are no longer tolerating. And that's going to happen with our personal traditions that we were raised with or that we are used to from the last decades, years, or whatever. Where this year, many of us are going to go to the places that we typically go to. We're going to sit
Hmm.
at the tables that we typically sit at, and we're going to
Hmm.
tolerate in different levels the conversations that occur there. And then we're going to make the choice of, is this the table that I sit at next year? And if you want to be able to make that choice in an educated way, my recommendation is figure out what conversations you want to be having. Figure out where that table is or what the table looks like that you want to be sitting at. This program can help you do it, but there are so many ways to help you do it. Practice a bunch of different traditions, see what aligns with you rather than you having to, as I said this morning on my live, so many of us spend so much time bending ourselves out of shape to fit in a box of a community that we think we're supposed to be accepted in. And then one day I had a revelation with my therapist where she said, maybe they never were going to like you.
Hmm.
And you had to get out to find where the world embraces you rather than you bending yourself out of shape to fit inside somebody else's box. I know that sounds cheesy, but for some reason, when she said it that day, when she said maybe they never were going to like you, it hit me that it's like, oh, no, I, at the time, thankfully for the wonderful people around me, had found people who had proven enough to me that I can be loved, who had proven enough to me that I can be likable, who had proven enough to me that what I say, it doesn't have a timer on it, that after 5 seconds it becomes annoying. And so if you feel any of those things at the tables you're currently sitting at, this group is the quick and short way of getting into a group where you will not have a timer on your conversations on what you want to share with people. But also, you will find those people a lot faster from all over the place. When I first found community, it had to be online. We've made ways for it to not have to be online all the time, but it is still very much online, and that works. So reach out. Don't think that you have to have a physical table to sit at in order to feel included. Do what you need to do. Know your boundaries. Know what you'll stand for. Know what you won't stand for. And figure that out this season so that next year you can feel embraced instead.
Absolutely. And if you're also someone who's dabbled and now are feeling the pull to go way deeper with stuff, that's also what's coming in. And I think that's the retrogrades. I think that's the collective energy that's happening. I also think like after our timeline smoosh that occurred
Mhm.
in eclipse season, like we amped up. And if you're like, man, I've always dabbled in this, or I've always been interested in this, or I've tried it before and then I've chilled, like now we're in an active spiritual space, not a passive one. So if you're really starting to feel like I need to do stuff, like I need to tap in
Mhm.
deeper, like please lean in on that. That's not going to just go away. That's not the same impulse as it was before. Like it is a pull to go deeper. Truly, it is.
There are so many things across the board of esoterics, whether it's astrology, energetics, anything
Yeah.
that confirm that. Pluto and Aquarius being one of them. Pluto and Aquarius is the I'm over it kind of vibe. And
Yeah.
so if you're feeling that, yeah, it's okay. It's time.
hmm hmm Like very much so. We're in that.
Mhm.
We're in that world. We really
Mhm.
are. Um, on that note, let's do some stuff. So we're gonna do some more Hygge questions. Because you guys love that so much, and so we decided we bring that in with our bookend episodes each month where we just do some answering some questions energy, and then we'll do bookendy stuff.
Yeah.
One other thing I do want to mention really quick as well, for next week when you hear this, it'll be just about launched. I am launching a really simple like 6 module spirit guide course. Everyone's really needing to better understand how to connect with their guides. It's been like a pressure for the last month where people are almost a little bit like intense about it, scared about
Mhm.
it, levels of energy, which if you're feeling that, totally valid. So I just launched this. Even if no matter how or I'm about to launch this. No matter how deep you're connected with your guides, I promise it'll help you go deeper. There's activations in there, there's block pulls in there. This week I did like 45 block pulls for this course. There's a lot. But if you're in that sort of space, that's also coming up. It's a little quick little thing. It's kind of like my Simply Sacred channeling course, but it goes really, really deep on just spirit guide communication. So just keep an eye out for that. I wanted to put that in here too, because people are feeling alone and spirit guides help you not feel alone. So I
Mhm.
really want to make sure you guys know it's available to you too.
Yeah. Thank you for
hmm
that resource, Anne.
Yeah,
Really.
my pleasure. I just wanted
Yeah.
to make sure I pointed that out there before we
Where were
heated.
you when I was like 15? Cheapers.
Also 15.
We didn't have like I had a cell phone, but I had to share it with my brother. So
Yeah, yeah. My first cell phone was one of the ones that had the mirror on the front of it.
oh, cute.
You
That was
remember
like
those?
my third cell phone.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
had it was one of those Motorola flip phones that like didn't have a front screen. The screen itself was yay big and it was green and just had the
Yep.
clock kind of letters on it. My brother
Uh-huh.
dropped it in the aquarium. We didn't find out until the next day and it was still fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you remember then how Motorola made those little brick phones? They weren't flips, they were just like little ovals with
Mhm.
buttons. Basically, I had two friends that like swore by those and they would stay with those forever. One time I ran over one with my car and it was fine.
We found my brother's at the dump. The dump was right next to the baseball fields that my pap like ran, and he found this phone that my brother wanted a new phone. He threw it out his car window. It got picked up by a garbage truck, got taken 15 minutes into Shamokin, and then got dumped next to the baseball fields where we worked all the time because Pap ran them. And Pap found this phone and somehow recognized it as Sean. So Sean didn't get a new cell phone. Like
Oh my
it
God.
found its way back like a bad penny. Yeah. I think that was an
That's
Ericsson,
amazing.
but yeah. I was
That
just
is
saying this
that
to Dan
is
the other day. Like, you remember when phones were cool and they were all
right.
different? And there was like the sidekick and the flips and the whatevers and the
A
razors. And it was,
sidekick was such like a oh my God, I have a sidekick.
I know
Like
it
it
didn't
was
make
such a
sense
vibe.
whatsoever, but we all needed to have one or we weren't cool. It was like the Gap
Mhm.
hoodie or the Gap sweater that from, what was it, 2001 when the Gap
Mhm.
hoodie sweaters were like the thing.
I was like super anti Sidekick because it was so like
Mhm.
popular. So I went BlackBerry and it had the little scrolly ball
Me
in the
too.
middle of it and the full
Yes.
keyboard. Oh my God, I love that phone. And the one time I fell asleep on it and the scrolly ball like indented deeper into the phone.
No.
And then it like clicked when it moved and it made me so sensory mad.
Oh God. I got a Palm Pilot because I would sit in study hall.
Oh.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
well, okay, so I got a Palm Pilot first because it had this way of graffiti writing where I could do that
Uh-huh.
if my hands were numb when I was having a mini stroke. So my mom was like, "This makes sense to get you." My first accommodation. And but then I started using it to write my books. So I that's
Like baby's first accommodation.
right. In fifth grade, mom was like, if you can use a planner for an entire marking period, I'll get you a Palm Pilot. So that's what I did. Dedicated. And yeah, so I had a Palm Pilot before phones came out. But it was because if I couldn't use my hands, I could still communicate. It was great. Um, so then I ended up continuing with the Palm Pilot journey as they became cell phones, and I could write my books on it. So like my first three books were written partially on Palm Pilots in study halls where the teachers would come over and be like, "You're on your cell phone." So I changed the cell phone policy at my school. I did.
Good
I
job.
got a petition signed and like put an article in our school newspaper and did all the things, and then they were lenient about the cell phone policy, um, which now in current day and age is being overturned, obviously. But in my era, I did that.
Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, different time because now it's like no cell phones is such a
No. Well, you because we have so much like I didn't have the internet. I
no.
had like I had Sudoku. I could
If you
text
were
if I wanted
lucky,
to
you had
spend 10 cents
Sudoku,
of my own money.
right?
It was
Yeah,
free calls on nights
Sudoku.
and weekends. What was I gonna
It
do?
didn't play music. It was
Hmm.
like you had the caterpillar game.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Oh
I
God.
was like, literally, I'm just doing my calendar and writing a book. Leave me
Yeah.
alone. Yeah. It was different.
Two in my calendar. Of course you
Yep.
had a calendar
I
on there.
did. I did. I listen, I was doing college at the same time too. So I was busy.
Yeah. No, I get it. I was anti-digital calendar for so long because I
Mm.
love planners.
Writing. Yeah. I was on
Love
the
that.
agenda committee at my school.
Oh, and I had like different colors. Like if I ask, if I'm
Yep.
asking a question, it's in this color. If it's like a kid's appointment, it's in, like so
Hmm.
long. And then finally, like it was honestly within the last like 7 years, I was like, my calendar's just control. I need
Right.
to.
I was at my doctor's office having my checkup on Wednesday, and
Uh-huh.
for anybody who's following, I'm out of the binder, yay! But there
Woo!
was a lady at the thing in front of me, and she had two binders of calendars out, and she had like one over here and one over here, and she's like, "And what's that day? And what's that day?" And I'm just like, "So this is what it was like. This is interesting." Meanwhile, I open my phone and I'm like, 6 weeks, right? Copy the appointment. It's over there. We're good. Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm done.
Yep.
Oh,
Oh man, are we going to talk
okay.
about books first or do we want to Higa first?
That's a Hygge.
Let's say Higa. Okay. So, the first Higa question, what song tends to make you tear up?
Oh, shit. Okay.
We both just saw
There's
Wicked this
multiple.
weekend. So,
I know. Okay. Both. Okay. By the way, both of us saw Wicked this weekend, sobbed the whole time. It's phenomenal piece of film work. If you haven't seen it, please go see it. We are not going to spoil anything, but we will do a Wicked deep dive probably in a couple weeks after people have had a chance to see it.
mhm,
So we recommend you do that. And we're going to talk about the magic in it. We're going to talk about the high vibe energy in it. We're going to talk about all the different like psychic magic elements of it. We're not going
mhm.
to do it yet because it would take another 2.5 hours, and we're really into it. But anyway,
Yeah, it's very good.
so yeah, there's a bunch of musical theater songs that make me tear up. Honestly. Okay, couple ones. Dancing Queen, specifically the Mamma Mia movie version,
Mhm,
gets me. Um, I have a lot of personal history with that song. That gets me, and also just it's a good one. The magic, the oh, Amadeus, that meditation.
Amadeus.
No, no, not Amadeus. It's like
Amadeus. Oh, Adiamus.
yeah, thank you.
Adiamus. Yes.
Amadeus gets me
Yeah. Now we are
every
free.
uh-huh. Now We Are
Mhm.
Free gets me every time. Um, the specific Ellie Goulding version of the Elton John song that now my brain isn't thinking of because it's fucking Mercury Retrograde. The one like, if I was a sculptor, but then again, no. What's that
It's
one?
your song. It's called Your Song.
Your
Like
song. Thank you.
my
My God.
song, this one's for you.
Yeah, that one. That one gets me too. And there, this one's because I love my dad. But in the
All of
Wild
mine as well.
Thornberrys movie, there's a James Taylor song, the father-daughter one in there. Every time I hear that, I start crying because I love my dad.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I get it.
obsessed with that.
Uh,
So that's just a handful. I'm also just a crier though, like in general. So just throw that out there as many a thing makes me cry. Tide commercials and My Little Pony are on that list. So like just
yeah, mine have to hit a certain note, but then they get me. Like if you pull the tab, it's coming out, right? Like
Mhm.
I don't know how else to put that. Um, so the one that makes me cry to the point where I will not listen to it is actually a song called Butterfly Kisses. And I'm pretty
Yep,
sure
know that one.
my dad, there was a bookstore when I was like in junior high, and he bought this book, and in the back, it was Butterfly Kisses, the lyrics, and then had a CD at the back. And it was supposed to be a gift for someone's graduation or wedding day or whatever, right? And my dad bought it, and he looked at me, and I'm like a kid, and he's like, I'm going to give this to you on the day you get married. And then I listened to the song, and it's like, like leaving the dad behind because she married some guy, right? So I looked at the song and I was like, you better not. And then every time I had a big life moment, I was like, do not give me this book. I know you have it, burn it. Don't give it to me. It's still in a box somewhere because I did not accept it. What I did do was I wrote the giving away out of my vows. Dad definitely walked me all the way down the aisle, did not pass me off, and when the DJ at my wedding nearly forgot to do the father-child dance, I grabbed the microphone and put it back into the schedule. And then my mom and my and Dan also joined us by the end of it. We danced to What a Wonderful World. Um,
Nice.
yeah. So that makes me cry, but it's because like it implies that I would ever abandon someone. But
Yeah.
then, we are where we are now. So, pretty much any song from the 70s that I used to listen to with my dad will make me cry because I know almost all of them because he did.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so those are the ones that
Yeah.
get it's
Yeah.
totally dad vibe.
Yeah. I have huge music connection with my dad too. So I totally get it. There's multiple, like I'm like, I touched on that one, but there's so many from my dad that I
Mhm.
cry at. So
Yeah. Any song
get it.
that my dad was always like, I want to hear you sing this one. That's the
Oh.
one. Yeah, he had a whole sound room. Like I have a
Yeah.
recording studio. And so I have multiple CDs from when I was a kid that he would just make them. And it was always like he wanted to hear me sing them. So I would sing them and he would put them on CDs and they still run on rotation when I go there. And I'm like, it's a little pitchy, but I know you love it. So yeah,
Oh.
yeah,
Sweet.
yeah. Yep.
That's very sweet.
So
Yeah.
music will get me.
Yeah.
The other one that gets me is from Has Been Hotel.
Oh my God. No, for real though. It's the one where they're like, it's heaven, and heaven would
No.
be. That one gets me so fucking bad.
That one's a good one. But for me, it's when Lucifer and Charlie reconcile.
Also brutal. Also
Yeah,
brutal for the tears.
when they sing the like that line about I'm proud to be your father or daughter thing.
Mm,
Um, I lose it at that line every time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that one's brutal too.
Mhm.
I didn't even think about Husband Hotel. My God.
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm gonna go rewatch that again.
The whole thing, all of it.
Uh-huh. Well, it's not that long. It's just like
No,
3 hours of
no,
your
you could
life.
do it in like a day for
Mhm,
sure, and you should.
mhm. If you haven't,
Um,
please do.
ooh, dang. So it's funny, when I played Higa with my parents, this one came up and
Okay.
the room was divided. Do you think people ever really change?
Yeah, of course.
I'm not so sure. And
I
so
think
yeah.
no, you go,
Okay.
go.
So what I think is, I think we have this version of us that we grow into. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think a person tells you who they are in multiple ways, but sometimes a person doesn't have the freedom to be who they are. And so they almost change themselves, but it's not who they are, right? Like who they are is
Mm,
always underneath there. So I think
yeah,
sometimes we mask and we can do it for a really long time until we lose ourselves too, or we can grow up in a non-ideal environment. Um,
yeah,
but I think the depth of a person is always truly there. I like to imagine the depth of a person is a good person.
yeah.
So in that way, if someone who is not a good person becomes a good person and changes, I get it. You became who you actually are. If you go the other way, you've fallen into your not self, is kind of how I see it. So did you change who you are in essence? No, it's still under there. I can see it. But have you changed as the way you act? Yes.
I appreciate how optimistic
I know.
you are as a person. I will say for a long time, people be like, "Oh, you're so optimistic." I'm like, no, I'm actually a really big pessimist. Optimism is the way I fight it.
Mm,
So I will say, as I think people can change through the course of a lifetime on Earth. That is the human
mhm,
side of them.
mhm,
I think the core pillar of who you are on a soul level, I don't necessarily think that will completely change. However, I don't think that there's a possibility to I don't think the nature of the universe is stagnancy, I guess is the way that
yeah.
I'm going to put it. So I think growth is possible. I think change is possible. I do think that truly changing can happen. Unfortunately, I feel like with the energy and the idea of like, well, people don't core change. I have an issue with the people are inherently good thing. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people are inherently not good. I think a
Mhm.
lot of people are inherently really fucking awful as people,
Yeah.
and
You know
that's
what?
who they are. Um, period. I there's some I think that's what they were here to do. I think
Yeah.
that's their soul journey. I've met beings in astral that I'm like, oh, you just can suck. Like you're just a terrible, awful, horrible energy. And the
Mhm.
universe gets that too, and evil even. And then there's some that are just wonderful, and then there's some that are too nice, like that are too much. So I think that there's like space for everything.
Mhm.
I wish I believed that everyone was inherently good. I don't.
Yeah, no, I don't actually either. I don't so this was 2 years ago when we had this game and I repeated what I
Mhm.
said 2 years ago and it's like, me now has changed. Go figure. Or at least my
Yeah.
perspective has. So
Just changed. That's the other thing. I will say when I was in high school, I really had a very deep understanding of who I was. I discovered who I was in about 11th or 10th grade. Very, very distinctly. I knew who I was at that point in time. And that person hasn't changed. Those values are still the same in a lot of ways. When I saw it, because again, I've been psychic forever, guys. This
Mhm.
is a forever thing. But when I looked at it, when I very first like felt like, oh my God, I feel like I know who I am, which was a profound moment in my life in that moment. People search forever and don't necessarily always find that. And I was
Mhm.
15, 16. 16. So it was a very profound energy space to exist in. I saw an image and it was like a pillar in the middle of
Mhm.
us. And then there was a bunch of light that swirled around the pillar. And the pillar was like the core you. And then the light would be like stuff would change and add in or to go away. And like the stuff around it was the stuff that changed all the time. So I think people absolutely can change. I think beings absolutely can change. I don't know if you ever would change 180 degrees the way we're thinking of change being, though.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
where I'm at. So I think they can change absolutely. Do I think that they can absolutely fundamentally alter all that they are into becoming a different being? Not without something absolutely earth shattering.
And a ton of therapy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah,
Good
right?
question. Mm.
Um, let's see. The modern day one came back up again. No, we did that one last time.
Let's do last one and then we'll do.
Yep.
Okay. Two.
Um,
What have I read this month?
okay, here we go. This is a good segue. What book changed your life?
Oh, fuck. So many.
You're welcome.
So many. Throw a rock at my bookshelf. You'll hit one.
I like that.
So many. So I'm deeply blessed with my mom. My mom is an incredible, amazing person. My mom had us reading books when we were young that many kids did not read when we were young. My mom would read a book, an adult book, and hand it to sixth grade me and be like, this is a good one, like read it. But they were always incredibly diverse. They were from different cultures, different paths, different walks of life. So there's so many books from my childhood that many people were like, whoa, you read that when you were how old? And I'm like, yeah, I'm aware. But it's because my mom was really world focused and she's a very accepting person and she wanted us to have that worldview. And I think that that's just a freaking huge thing. So, I mean, I had a lot like I read The Kite Runner, I read Planet of the Cave Bear, I read Picture Maker. I mean, we read, let's see, I read A Child Called It,
Mm.
The Poisonwood Bible, all these ones that were like very not white people focused, were really fantastic and really life changing for me as a kid. So those are huge that I will always treasure all of those. There's a whole bunch more. That's just like a very small little little list just to throw out there that we did read together. The Chronicles of Narnia changed my life. I've read that book so many times. Those books, it's one I have it bound all together. So one book, but it's many books. Um, Most recent, well, not most recently, but a very recent one was Light from Uncommon Stars. I was in a really, really bad place when I read that book. Like I was not probably the most depressed I've ever been, to be totally honest, because I'm not prone to depression. I'm an anxious girly, not a depressy girly. Um, Anxiety all day long, every day. What are you thinking about? Anxious some more. I can manage it, don't get me wrong, but depression is weird for me. It doesn't typically happen. And I was in a very, very depressed space. Um, and when I read that book, it pulled me out of it. Like straight up pulled me out of it, grabbed me and yanked me out. So that's a huge one. Uh, Gosh, there's so many. Anxious People also really recently helped my perspective on stuff. I think about that book probably once a day by Frederick Bergman. Um, oh God, there's so many. But there you go. That's my little baby buffet of books that have changed my life. La Costa, the book that I've written recently,
My
changed my life.
my Kindle app just crashed. Here it is. It's back. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So books that changed my life. I got into reading. I will say The Princess Diaries. Yeah. They
Oh, it's such a
they
good book.
they were my escape in fifth grade. In fifth grade, I was bullied heavily because I was brain surgery kid. So it got, a little awkward. And
It's
so I
really
just,
hard to grow up in the 90s.
I know, especially when you had brain surgery, I
My
guess.
kids would never, like the kids in my kid's grade would never bully a kid for that ever, ever. Like they're different kids now.
Mhm.
That's that's horrible.
So I spent a lot of time in books. And I had the Princess Diaries on my Palm Pilot.
Yes, you did.
I did. And I would just sit there and read anything. I read so many books that year and it was amazing. I won my first writing contest that year. And so those were life-changing for me. They got me very into reading. Um, More recently, I'm trying to think of like other books that changed my life. I will say the theta healing books changed my life because
Oh,
they
deeply.
affirmed so much of what I already knew and gave me education where I couldn't find a mentor. So that was really helpful.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, and then also, So This Is Ever After changed my life because it validated my identity so much. Like I knew on a soul level who I was as an 8-year-old. I had a name for that being when I was 19, but it wasn't until I was 31 um when I realized physically what I was doing, And that book gave me a space somehow. And I just really, really loved it. It finally showed me that there is a feeling out there that I was looking for and that it existed. So that was awesome. Um, and I have a feeling I'm gonna add to the list. This is
Uh-huh.
not from this week. God on Anatomy is gonna change my life, guaranteed.
Hmm.
Which I'll talk about a little bit more soon. Um, but
The
yeah.
Hunger Games radicalized me.
Oh, here's the other one that I would normally be
Right.
ashamed of.
Hmm.
Second Twilight book.
Oh.
I was reading it when I was on a trip to Romania, but we were I was sitting in a hotel in Venice when I was reading this book that I had started when I was in a relationship with someone. And I had gotten out of that relationship, but kept reading the book series.
Yeah.
And I was halfway through the second book and I'm reading it and I'm just like, ew. Like all of a sudden, I was just like, this is really ew. I don't even know why I'm reading this. This character feels very weak to me, like for where
Yeah.
I want to be. I'm done. And
Yeah.
that changed my life because it helped me realize that I had used these books to get myself mentally through a very hard time and I'd gotten out.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yep.
books.
Books, go books.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh my God, there's so many. I
Yeah,
could just keep going. I'm just looking around. I'm like, and that one. And
right.
that
I have
one.
my shelf over here and it's just like, ugh, but yeah,
Yeah.
lots of
Angels and Demons. That was a huge one for me because that made I read that right before I really left the Catholic Church, and it was one of those books where I'm like, oh, so it is a pantheon, like it
yeah.
is multiple deities. I got it. We're good. Like that, just like that. It pulled that in for me, so that was a very validating one. My God, so many, so
Hmm.
many.
Yeah. So on that note, let's
Okay.
summarize the books that we read this month,
Hmm.
of which there have been quite a few of those as well. Oh,
It was a slow month for me.
oh,
I was doing about 45 other things. Um,
yeah.
a
You had
lot.
blankets to make.
Huh?
You had blankets to make.
I had blankets to make. Anxious desperation of finding grounding.
For
No, I
anybody
also
who's wondering, Em is excellent at crochet. I can prove it. Look at
thank
this
you.
thing. It's so cool. It's so cool. I just love it. Sorry.
Please watch the YouTube to witness the bouncy thing that Krista was pulling on. I am oh, there's my that's my crochet too over there, my little
Oh,
pink and purple bathroom
yeah.
mirror on my bookshelf. If you ever seen that back there, that's my crochet too. Which is just a hobby I picked up recently and just have been prolific at because it makes the spiders in my head stop wiggling. Um, or bees. They're bees in my head. That's how we describe them. But I was also just, it's been a month of a lot of doing. I've been working on edits of stuff. I've been building the Spirit Guide program. We've been working on our program. Like it's just been a lot. Plus, it's like been very heavily kid influenced too.
Mhm.
So all of that's to said, I read This Will Be Fun by E.B. Asher. It would have been really fun if the last quarter of the book were different.
Mm,
It gives Ella Enchanted the movie vibes the whole time, which I really liked. It's about a bunch of heroes that saved the realm when they were 20. Now they're 30, and it
mhm.
sucks for them that they saved the realm, and it was a problem. My big thing is it insisted upon itself so often, especially at the end. It was a super fun adventure. I loved all of it, and then freaking last quarter of the book, it was just like every character had to restate the lessons they learned and restate how strong they are in their vulnerability and restate how it was fine that they didn't get credit for saving the realm this time because they were friends. And like it just insisted upon itself. Like, do you not trust me as a reader to get the point? Because like I hate books that don't trust me as a reader.
I have editors. I've had editors that have done
Mhm.
that to me as an author where they're like, you need to explain this better for the reader. I'm like, why is the reader stupid? Like,
Yeah,
you
no,
think the
like,
reader's
trust me
dumb?
as a reader or
Yeah.
don't. Like don't write it. Like
Yep.
it was so good. It was so
Like they'll get it
promising.
or
And
they
then
won't. Or they enjoy the story and they don't get it. It's fine.
right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I'm reading the second House in the Cerulean Sea book, which let's be real, didn't need to exist. The House in the Cerulean Sea is a darn near perfect novel. I love
Mhm.
that book with all of my heart, especially as a parent. But this one's called Somewhere Beyond the Sea. It is a sequel. It happens pretty much like a month or two after the events of House in the Cerulean Sea. It's kind of more from Arthur's perspective. It does insist upon itself a little bit, but not in the same way where it's like trying to tell you the moral. It's definitely trying to be. I can tell that the author decided to write this book because he is so pissed off at the world. Um, in general. It is hugely in support of trans people, massively in support of trans people. I am not a trans person, so I'm not going to speak to how that works and all of that sort of energy. But they do specifically say that, like, the government that's in power is very anti-trans and how messed up that is, as well as them being anti-magical creatures and how messed up that is. So they keep trying to circle that around too, which I really appreciate. I don't think it necessarily was super needed, but I do see it as an act of trying to rebel through education of people who
Mhm.
maybe enjoyed this book but are not actually very politically or socially aware. And so it's a little heavy-handed, and it's like, wake the fuck up type of energy that comes in. So I appreciate it for what it is, but that's what it is.
Yeah, I appreciate that too. Cool.
Plus, it's like 150 pages plus of David and Chauncey and Lucy and all those like fun kid characters that just get to be around. And yeah, so
Mhm.
it's cool.
That's cool. So I think I started this month with I did some very Sanderson month for me. I started with Yumi and the Nightmare Painter,
Right.
which was pretty good. Um, it there was some stuff about it where I was like, just go a little bit further, do something, like get some ambition. But that was the point, I think, of part of a lot of the themes. So my Mars was like, hey, do something else, but I also respect where the book was coming from.
Yeah.
Um, and then I read Tress in the Emerald Sea, which I loved, especially the last third. Like I
Uh-huh.
was saying, like if I hadn't read books of Sanderson's before that really featured Hoyd as his own personality, I would have been like, Hoyd. But in this one, it was just like, oh, Hoyd, like you did that
Uh-huh.
again. So
The,
I
the
loved that.
characterization in that book is amazing. Like she
Mhm.
collects cups and
Yeah,
you're just like, but I love that. Like I get
yeah,
it. I get that for you. Like
yeah,
the characterization is just done so
yeah.
well.
And
Everyone
she
is
goes
so
back to them
unique.
for comfort all the time.
I'm like, it's not just like she has this throwaway trait. It's like
No.
really just beautifully connective and throughout the whole thing. And the world is baffling. I love the world.
Yeah.
Like, of course,
Oh my gosh.
it's a world that only Sanderson could write. Like,
Exactly. Yeah, I loved that. There was so much in it. It was just like, wait, what? I found myself like reading parts over again just because it's like that description needs more and just
that's
more time. And I liked it so much. And then I moved into my research energy that I've kicked into with the holidays. I am preparing for conversations that I might encounter, I think, subconsciously and consciously. So I am
yes.
reading a theological reclaiming of Advent. I am reading the new Aradia, which is a witch's handbook for magical resistance that I'm reading with the Modern School of Ancient Wisdom book club. We're having a good time. And then I'm reading the ancient religions of Mesopotamia so that I can be like, look, you guys proved their flood, not the other way around. Um,
Weirdly enough, that popped up for me. That exact book popped up for me this week on my algorithm on Amazon. And I was like,
very wordy, but there's good information. If you can get past how much the author likes to hear themselves talk, there's
yeah,
fun. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It's just very, I was like, not necessarily a field of study for me, but like into the vibe. Anyway,
They must know we talk. I don't
I know.
know. Your address is probably also in my Amazon, so they're like, wait.
You want your address isn't mine. I know that for sure. So,
Yeah. Um, and
as
then
you're wondering, we're real close.
we are, yes. How else would I send you sneaky tarot decks? Um,
Okay, good.
the other one I'm reading right now is also God and Anatomy, so that I can learn the Canaanite origins of the biblical God better.
I like that.
Something to be able to quote if someone questions me, because I don't want them to just have to take my word for it. So that's why I do this.
I love that.
Mhm.
Cool. I had like four ideas that I just had to write down right now, or else I'd.
That's okay. That's how it works. It's called inspiration. We love it.
I know. Well, thank you guys for being here on this very chaotic Mercury retrograde episode.
Quite long.
Um,
I hope you enjoyed it.
yeah, it's a bunch.
It's a bunch.
We got this though, team.
It's
We're
a
in this
little bit
together.
funny.
Okay, we hope that you take all this energy and all this magic and that you
Go make some magic.
messed it up. Goodbye. Bye. Goodbye.
We're done. We're done.